So I'm refusing to pay my sister-in-law's monthly allowance? It's ridiculous. But now my mother-in-law is coming out saying she's going to get her son to divorce me if I don't pay the money. Let me walk you through this exact scenario, because when you find out what my husband said in this scenario, you won't believe it and you might tell me I should leave him. Let's see. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm usually the person who keeps a bit to herself, no matter how hard it might be of a situation. But this time things have gotten a little out of hand, and I have nowhere else to turn to. This is the reason that I'm here, just to vent about what I'm going through right now, and I believe I could use some help. Also, I'm aware of the online shaming and everything, so I request all just to please be nice, so I'm already in a dilemma. Anyways, let me start by introducing myself. My name's Rysa, and I'm currently 29 years of age. I'm happily married to my husband, Steve. I'm facing a problem, mainly because of my mother-in-law. Let us call her Margaret. And her stupid daughter, Sandra, and I'm not gonna lie, they have absolutely made my life a living hell indeed, and I seriously don't know what I did to deserve it. So hear me out. My mother-in-law, being the perfect mother she is, has recently asked me to divorce my husband. And somewhere down the line, I knew this witchy woman would have done anything to get me out of her son's life, which I believe she's excelling at proficiently. Let me tell you all a little backstory. Steve and I have been married for a long time. Almost 3 years now, and before that, we even dated for a few years. Everybody loved us together and approved of us, except for his mother, Margaret, who always saw me as an insect and never really appreciated me. When Steve introduced me to her during our university days, she made fun of me by calling me ugly and whatnot. In fact, one day while I was at his place, I overheard her questioning Steve about his choice in terms of women, and after that incident, I'd stopped visiting his house regularly, and even though sometimes he became persistent, I always used to come up with an excuse. Anyways, after dating for quite some time, we decided to get married as Steve had proposed, and although I was really happy about it, one thing I knew for sure was that his mother would not appreciate his decision to get married to me, and guess what? I was right. When Steve had announced our engagement, she was not happy at all. She had created this big scene in front of everybody where she threatened everyone that she would take her own life if this marriage happened and blah blah, and I would ruin everything for the family. Honestly, I felt like I was being a pressure on them as she was completely against my existence. There came a point of time where I told Steve that it's better that we put an end to our relationship, but he always stood by me and got married to me even though his mother was completely against it. He told his mother that if she did not support our marriage, he would simply leave and never come back to their house, which gave his mother a minor shock, and obviously, she had to comply with him or else she would have lost him. Since I've known her, I've tried my best to be loving and respectful towards her, but she just does not accept me for who I am. When I used to achieve something, she always pertains to the fact that it is Steve who has done this for me and I'm nothing in front of any of them. I always remained silent for the sake of our relationship. On the day of our wedding, she again created a scene by passing comments on my side of the family and by calling them racist and whatnot, as my family is not as influential as them, so we chose peace over humiliation. In every social gathering we used to meet, she would always try to poke me or something, but eventually was stopped by Steve. When Steve and I had our baby, she never visited us during our pregnancy days and never checked in to ask if we needed anything. When the baby was born, she showed up and just talked to Steve and never came to the hospital in the first place, and always used to mock me for little things. Anyways, since you all are already aware of how toxic my mother-in-law has been all this time, let me tell you my main reason for being here. My sister-in-law Sandra got fired from her job, and she's really having a tough time managing her expenses and is almost on the edge of going broke. I mean, this is what Steve told me. All this time I've been with him, he's always praised his sister as if there was no one like her. In fact, his own mother used to compare me to her, by claiming that she had given her more assets than I could ever have done and she could afford the world. Oh, by the way, this was one of the prominent reasons why she was always against our relationship, as she thought more about the family's reputation. But also, to be fair, I agreed with Steve about his sister, as she always travels the world and always wears brand clothing, so I'd known that she was earning well, but for some reason she got fired from her job. So, 4 days back, Margaret and Sandra all of a sudden showed up at our place. I believe after an entire year, I was truly shocked since this was not an ordinary thing. Steve was out of town for some official work, so I had to bear with him. I invited them in, and to my surprise, for the first time ever, Margaret was being so nice to me and complimented me by appreciating me for the latest salary raise. It was really hard to accept the sudden change in her, but I went with it and thanked her for the same. I told them that Steve was not home, and they in return tell me that they were here for me and not Steve, as I'm the only one who can save them at the moment. I was confused until they tell me what was going on. Margaret directly asked me if I could pay for Sandra's monthly allowances as she just left her job and has no support. She asked me to fund her until she finds a new job and she'll just return all the money. Initially, I believed that she was being genuine as she had promised that she would return it, and I agreed at first, and I had to check in with my own expenses. If I had enough to fund her or not. I told them that I would get back to them the next day, and they agreed and left, and I did all of the calculations and the expenses were too high and just completely out of my budget, and I could not have afforded to fund her as I had to, take care of my child expenses on the household expenses at the same time. One thing that was bothering me, though, was why didn't they ask Steve for help? Strange, right? Anyways, so the next day they showed up at my place, and oh boy, the drama that unfolded after that. They seemed very excited as they had thought I was going to accept their offer, but I rejected, due to obvious reasons, and that is when Margaret quickly jumped back to her real self. I told them that Sandra's monthly expenses are too high, and that we could not afford to find her at the moment. Yeah, well, Sandra had a breakdown and just left the place in agony, whereas Margaret called me selfish and told me that I was good for nothing and she already warned her son about me, but I manipulated him to get married to me and everything. Honestly, what she said at that time did not bother me that much, as I was used to her bickering. The day before yesterday, Margaret showed up again at my place, this time with a large blue file, and threw it at my face. When I opened the file, my heart sank. It was our divorce papers, and I could not believe that she would have gone to such an extent to get me out of Steve's life. I had tears streaming down my eyes, and I just looked at her in horror. She gave me one last chance that if I did not go ahead and fund my sister-in-law's expenses, I would simply have to divorce my husband, as for Steve, she claimed that she would easily convince him as he's always close to her, and she just seemed almost sure about it for a moment. I thought that Steve was also a part of their plan. I'm hoping he's not, or else my married life is over. She left me with a divorce file, and now I'm in a dilemma as to what I'm going to do. As now for me, it's a do-or-die situation, and even if I confront Steve, he would never disregard me or anything, but also to some extent he might think that I'm setting him up against his mother, and I seriously don't know where I'm standing at the moment. So I'll leave it all to you. What should I do? Will this be the end of our marriage? I seriously have no idea, guys. Please, help me out. What would you do? What's up, everybody? Today's story is an interesting one. We do have multiple updates for this one. It looks like 3 updates. So we're going to check out those updates, but if you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing for daily videos. Alright guys, let's go ahead with update number 1. Hey guys, I hope you all are doing well. I totally forgotten about my post due to my off-track life, but never mind. To be honest, I only remembered about the update because I was getting a number of notifications and messages on my last post. And for that, I would really like to thank you all for the love and support that you've all sent me through. If I'm being honest, that's helped me to become a stronger person than ever, so yes, you're all amazing. And for the people who are commenting crap about me, let me tell you something. My mother-in-law has always been rude to me no matter how much I've tried to respect her, and whatever. She's only bearing me because of my marriage to Steve, and I believe that that's the only reason. My problem with her is genuine, so it's better if you mind your own business. Anyways, I'm back here after 10 days, and I know initially I was confused and everything about what to do next. But I tried, and fortunately it worked for me, but I don't have anything solid, no evidence against these two. So, while Steve had been away due to his professional responsibilities, my mother-in-law made my life hell. And I knew that she was taking the most advantage out of everything. She had been torturing me to the core and kept calling me every single day since the drama happened. Margaret's behavior kept reminding me why I always disliked her, but at the moment I could have not done anything. After she slammed my face with divorce papers, she was pressuring me to sign them as soon as possible, and she even threatened me that she would find a better woman for Steve, and that kept building up inside of me. Even my sister-in-law Sandra started pulling out cheap tricks by emotionally blackmailing me and threatening me that she would brainwash my husband, which would eventually make him hate me. I know, you all must be thinking, why did I keep silent about all this? You're all right to feel that way, but what could I have done? In the midst of all this, I was just waiting for Steve to come back, and I've decided that I would explain to him in the best manner possible. But honestly, all of this torture and everything seemed a bit off to me, as they were desperate for the money and have been constantly creating trouble regarding it. This was actually really weird, as they could have easily asked for help from Steve's father and Steve for the matter, but for some reason they did not. Don't you think that is a bit strange? One thing that I did not mention in my previous post was that I'm in touch with Sandra's company, as I have worked as a consultant over there for a very brief time period, and I did make good contacts. So I called them up to know about Sandra's history as an employee, and one of the company workers revealed that she had taken an advance from the company claiming that it was a family emergency, and it's been months since she had not returned the money, and therefore she was fired and has been given a certain amount of time to pay it back, or else they're going to take legal action against her. All this time I was confused, but now things started to get clear. All I had to do was confront Steve. He arrived a week ago and I went up to him so that he would listen to me patiently, but then the moment I mentioned about the drama that's taken place, he started shouting at me for shaming his family and simply asked me to leave, as he would not take in anything negative regarding his mother and all that. I was heartbroken to see that Steve, who was already standing by me, was not believing me at all. He simply blamed me that I was not ready to fund my sister-in-law, as I never liked his side of the family, and that I should reconsider our marriage. Now, guys, I'm left in a position that I have no idea what to do next. Do you all think that I should sign divorce papers? I don't see any hope now. I'm messed up. I don't think now I can do anything about it. I've been trying my best to convince him, but he's not ready to listen. We're over, I think. I don't know what to do. I guess we'll just see what happens. Update number 2. Good evening. I hope you're all great, and I'm here. I'm back after a month and a half to update you all, and I hope you're ready for this one because it's a pretty major update. I apologize for the delay, as I've been working and taking care of my baby at the same time, and just hope you understand that it was difficult to manage, but anywho, I finally found the time to update. So I did not give it all up after all. I know in the last post I mentioned that it is over for me and Steve, but it's definitely not, and luckily we are standing strong. Anyways, coming back to the update, a lot has happened after our argument, and this time I've come up with something to prove myself. I had not shown Steve the divorce papers at the time, as he would not believe me, so I came up with a plan. Are you ready for this? First of all, I went to Sandra's workplace, where I met the employee I had gotten in touch with. Luckily, she just showed me Sandra's work record, and it was absolutely terrible. And I mean terrible. Oh boy. In fact, so much so that her officials wanted to fire her before she even took the advance. And since I could not get a hold of the official file, I just clicked a picture of it just in case I needed proof. Everybody at her workplace was aware of what Sandra had done, and they were really mad at her for some time. I recorded everything I got to know on my phone, and that night revealed everything in front of Steve, including Sandra's records and the divorce papers that Margaret smashed in my face. He was equally shocked as you guys were, and he wanted to call his mom up on the spot to confront her about her doings. I stopped him and told him that we should take action only when there's evidence regarding his mother as well. So for this, Steve came up with a genius plan. He went back to his home for some time and acted like he needed a break from our relationship, and no one was aware except us. He lived at his place for about 4 to 5 days, and trust me, he figured it out a lot. He took out all the accounts of his household expenses and saw that there was a discrepancy considering the savings expenditure. There was an extra spending through an unknown source which had been calculated, and also there were times when a huge amount of money was spent which was done out of the monthly budget. He sent me pictures and everything, and I just kept collecting them. Along with that, one of the days we went to the family bank, and oh boy, we got to know that Sandra and Margaret had taken huge amounts of loans and they had put their housing at stake as they wanted to travel and buy all the luxurious brands, which explains the high-paying job. Yeah, we figured out that they've been lying all along and they needed to collect money to pay for their loans. They had not forced me, but also their friends and all of Sandra, despite asking for an advance, could not even pay anything to the bank. Such a shameful act. Well, Steve was furious about how his family had done to us and decided to confront them. He confronted them about the loans and everything, for which they did not have an answer. They just stood there like dummies. Oh boy. He cut off his mother on the spot for even thinking once that she could get us divorced. He announced in front of his family, and now he was breaking contact with them and that he would never see their face again as they tried to sabotage us for the sake of their greed. His mother came towards me to use her hand, and I just threatened her that I would file a case if she did that, as now I had the proof. Steve seemed to agree with me on this and said that he was standing with me, and this was clearly the most support I felt. His mother and sister started crying hysterically and tried their best to stop him, but he simply left and did not even bother to look back, and I felt that now things were going to go in the right direction, finally. These days were just helping each other out the past few, as it was really suffocating for the both of us, and the worst part was, it was the damage that's been done by our families. So yes, I believe that this is going to be my last post, as there's nothing more left to talk about. Thank you for being here with me. You guys take care. Final update. Hey everyone, so I know it's been a long time. I hope you all have been good. It's been 3 months since my last post, and I know I said the previous update was going to be my last one, and trust me, I had assumed the same, as obviously, from all that's happened, I thought we left Margaret and Sandra far behind in the dust, considering what happened the last time we met them and everything, but nope, that was clearly not the case. Okay, so this is a major update, and trust me, you're not ready for it. So, Margaret and Sandra are in police custody at the moment. Yeah, you heard it right, they're arrested, LOL. I mean, of course it's funny. You know, now I know you all must be wondering how the heck did all this happen? Well, let me take you back to everything that went down. So 2 months back, Sandra and Margaret show up at our place and they look like crap. I mean, they were looking so miserable that for a moment I felt bad. When they showed up, Steve did not even bother to listen and directly went inside and called them selfish ladies. Well, whereas I wanted to enjoy their misery, so I listened. Both of them went on their knees and started crying and asking for financial assistance, as they would get arrested if they did not pay the loan. They stated that they were ready to do anything, so I employed them as our house helpers and used to make them clean our house every single day. Driven by their desperation, they readily agreed. When they used to clean the floor and everything, the only thing I saw was tears coming out of their eyes, and it became so bad that Margaret and Sandra started fighting with each other, as if they were going to break each other's heads or something. More than help, it started to become extremely chaotic, and to my shock, this drama just lasted for a week, and on their final day, they badly started hitting each other, blaming each other for their present situation. All this time, Steve never even looked at any one of them, and simply ignored them even when they tried to make peace with him. I just think he accepted the fact that they deserved nothing out of us. Anyways, when Steve left for the office, I simply called them and asked them to leave as they were inadequate and the work was not proper. I had to come up with something or they would just have been this chaotic every single day. They created a scene in the neighborhood when I pushed them out of the home as they were stubborn about not leaving. Everybody came out to see what the commotion was and I threatened them with legal action even. They finally left as there was no other option. Then, a month later, we received a notice that both Sandra and Margaret were arrested as they failed to arrange the money and crossed the deadline. So yeah, they even pleaded, or I'd rather say begged us to get them out of jail, but we simply rejected and came back to our place, and honestly, there's no guilt. We also got to know that they were kicked out of their own house due to dishonesty, and now they finally had a place to stay. unfortunately. It's prison. Anywho, this is all from my side, as karma has played its role finally, and both Margaret and Sandra have landed where they were supposed to for torturing everyone around them and being selfish. I think all of that happened for the best. Steve and I, we've decided to move out of town, and because of that, I'll be so busy, so consider this my final post. Anyways, oh yeah, also, thank you guys for the support. It definitely means a lot, and I'll be forever grateful to this place. This is me signing off. Sayonara. Take care.